Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, he's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. He joins us live. Congressman, good to see you, and thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate that. A lot to get to with you and a lot to unpack there, specifically the tone of the president delivering his budget. Wanted to show you this. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy even tweeting about it, saying President Biden just delivered his budget to Congress, and it is completely unserious. He proposes trillions in new taxes that you and your family will pay directly or through higher cost. Mr. President, Washington has a spending problem, not a revenue problem. So that was my question for you there. He alleges, the speaker, that it's about spending more. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's the classic shell game. You know, what he rolled out as kind of his premier comment on his own budget was, we're going to reduce the overall deficit. But, you know, the way he does it is by increasing taxes, as you just mentioned, and you know, not only going after Americans earning $400,000, but I would argue it's less than the $400,000 figure. But you know, the classic, we're going to increase the corporate rate again. So that has a direct effect on labor. It has a direct effect on jobs and the economy overall. So it's the classic shell game. What we are learning, I think, after having a day to kind of dig into it a little bit more, and it was delivered a month late. And the only reason that's significant is because they were leaking items almost 3 weeks ago that were basically trial balloons to see just exactly how it would fit into the president's campaign. And again, you kind of mentioned that the tone of this speech, the way he delivered it, I don't think it was anything more than a campaign opportunity for him to kind of say, listen, we're rolling out a budget, and here's some of the more important items.
Sure, it did feel, in terms of a campaign speech, mentioning, again, Medicaid, also talking about Social Security. While that is mentioned in his budget, that's really not the big highlight in the budget. It is the revenue stream that's about to increase to inflate the government, but that could trickle down to the everyday American. If you're raising corporate taxes, billionaire taxes, this could trickle down to the manufacturers, who then Americans would pay more buying goods here in the States. So my question for you would be, does the United States, does the government have a revenue problem, or does it have a spending problem?
Oh, gosh, I think it's obviously a spending problem. And this budget kind of goes right down that road again when you see the increases that have been granted. And some of these are smaller items, $1 million here, you know, $1 billion towards some of the stuff related to diversity and education. I mean, there's a lot of different items that I think we're just starting to pick up on that are related almost more to his messaging than it is to, you know, really treating the budget as a true fiscal document. I'll just mention one other thing.
Yeah.
If you had any doubts about where this administration is when it comes to securing the border, they cut $600 million out of Homeland Security. I've been down to the border a number of times and have met with Homeland Security. This is an agency that's already struggling to really get a control, obviously, about illegal immigrants coming across, but more so about the narcotics that are coming through. And the idea that, you know, at the peak of what's going on at the southern border, that they would even be willing to include that in their budget document, a $600 million cut to Homeland Security, I think says a lot about what their priorities are right now.
I want, if I can, ask you about that. I know that you have a fight on yourself, along with Senator Ron Johnson, on legislation to fight the ongoing opioid epidemic in terms of the border crisis and so many issues. But the opioid epidemic specifically, tell me more about this legislation, Congressman.
Yeah, it's called the SOFA Act. It's the acronym. That it basically talks about overdoses of fentanyl and the effect that it's having kind of throughout the country. We're not, you know, I see it in my own district in Wisconsin, where there is absolutely fentanyl making its way into our state, coming up through the interstate system, being smuggled in over the border. Listen, if we would just consider it a Class 1 narcotic, which is what the SOFA Act does, it it makes Congress, first of all, I think, take a hard look at what is the list of class 1, and then puts fentanyl in that category. That absolutely, I think, would not only give law enforcement more teeth, and I'm talking about prosecutors throughout the nation, but I think also would raise it to the level of seriousness that it deserves.